Hi everyone, welcome to Get Well with Dr. Shel. I am Dr. Shalene Alalji, better known as Dr. Shel, and I know as a board-certified OBGYN and a functional medicine expert, your health is unique and deeply personal. It is a combination of genetics, lifestyle, and environment. Know this, no matter what your starting point is, you are never powerless over your health. Being on a health journey is a marathon, not a sprint. This podcast is about walking you through many different perspectives on health conditions, symptoms, and solutions that can help you get from fatigued to fabulous. My mission has always been to offer my patients and community the best of mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. You can learn more about me and my wellness center and schedule your telehealth appointment at drshel.com. We can support you no matter where you are in the world. This podcast is a powerful and simple way to carry the wisdom of thought leaders from around the world in your pocket and continue to develop your own healing journey every single day. So let the journey begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Get Well with Dr. Shel. And today's guest is such a treat and really excited to have her here. Jodi Cohen is a powerful leader and a best-selling author. For those of you who might not know her yet, Jodi is a multiple best-selling author, an award-winning journalist, and the founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, my favorite.
Oh,
Love it, Jodi, love it. In addition to providing powerful and unique blends, which Jodi will share more about in just a moment, Vibrant Blue Oils also educates humanity, synthesizing decades of leading scientific research to explain exactly how essential oils can work to support our bodies and our brain. Her second book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body, there it is. Love it. Congrats, by the way. What a great book and a great accomplishment, Jodi.
thank you. Yeah, it was a labor of love, so I'm glad it was well received.
Absolutely. And I love it because it's a deep dive on all of the things we're going to talk about today. And of course, we'll talk about, all the wonderful nuggets that she has in the book. In addition to this, Jodi also holds certifications in nutritional therapy, in functional neurology, herbalism, and aromatherapy, along with multiple continuing education courses in plant medicine, brain health, Chinese medicine, and herbalism. She has worked closely with healthcare practitioners, including MDs, NDs, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, acupuncturists, health coaches, nutritionists, and yoga instructors to really implement the most effective essential oil protocols in clinical practice so that we can support the underlying imbalances that oftentimes lead to diseases and also other symptoms like sleep, stress, digestion, inflammation, detoxification, and blood sugar imbalances, just to name a few. So with no further ado, let me welcome Jodi so she can share more about her journey and the amazing impact that her work is having on the world. Welcome, Jodi.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing introduction. Thank you for having me.
Well, so well deserved. You have accomplished so much in your career, and I'm so proud to call you a colleague and a friend and to really use everything that you have put your labor of love into. So thank you for doing all that. Thank you for being
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like life throws you curveballs and you figure out how to navigate and then just decide you're going to bring everyone with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you and I definitely connect on that level, don't we? We connect on that level of, every tragedy becomes a transformation, and we try to impact the world with everything that we've learned through all the tough times that we've had. So let's dive right in and set the stage for those who don't have a foundation of knowledge, or shall I say, the skeptics, if you will, because we both know that there are naysayers out there. So can we begin with an outline of the efficacy of oils and how do oils work transdermally? And then let's also touch on 2 points. We know that the skin is the largest breathing organ in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the win of not having to ingest something through the digestive system. So if you can give an overview, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and if anyone is new to essential oils, what they really are the concentrated essences of plants. You know, basically you pick it's farm to table. You pick the lavender, you put it in a distiller, which is really a large pot of boiling water. The steam lifts the oil and the water. The oil and the water don't mix, so one goes down one side, that is your essential oil, and then the water falls off to the other side. So that's how it's derived. And what most people don't realize is that most of our pharmaceutical drugs are derived from plants. In fact, 50% of the pharmaceutical drugs approved by the FDA in the last 30 years come from plants. White willow bark is aspirin. Valerian root is Valium. It's much more mainstream than people realize. And what's really interesting about kind of, remedies in this day and age, most of the remedies we ingest through the digestive tract, which is great as long as our digestion is in tip-top shape. But if we're having like any kind of inflammation or low stomach acid, that can compromise the ability of the remedies to go through the digestive channel into the blood to the heart, where they're then pumped out systemically. What people don't realize is that nose cells are actually brain cells. There's a reason that cocaine is snorted through the nose. It's the fastest way to get it into the brain, not only because the blood cells are closer to the surface in the nasal passageway, but because the blood-brain barrier, kind of the security system of the brain, is thinner there, and it allows only super small fat-soluble molecules like essential oils to pass. So if you were going to ingest something, it would have to travel through your digestive channel into the blood, into the heart, and then be pumped into the brain. If you were to smell a bottle, within a second, it goes directly to your brain. And there's actually a great graphic in the book where I show it goes immediately to the part of the brain known as the amygdala, which is really in charge of your emotional response, which is why oils can be so powerful in shifting emotion. You also asked about the transdermal channel. So things get through the skin, nicotine patches, hormone creams, sadly toxins. It's a really easy way to get it into the system. And it can also be used on specific reflux points to have a similar systemic impact.
That's an awesome overview. So a couple of points to take from that I want to just kind of re-emphasize is that this is not anything new, right?
Correct.
If it's done properly using the finest plants and using the finest sources, which Vibrant Blue Oils does, it really is something that can get to the target organ the sooner the better and the quicker the better. And you and I both know this, right? And we talk about this all the time when we're educating patients that the gut microbiome, there's so much dysbiosis in all of us, right? And there's 90% of patients, if not more, have gut dysbiosis, leaky gut syndrome. And so when we're ingesting things, oftentimes we don't even see it. Our body and the target organs don't see it. And so when we feel like, well, I take these supplements or these medications and I'm still not getting better, well, it could be because you're really not getting to the target organ. And I'm glad that you mentioned hormone creams, because this is something, of course, as you know, and most of our listeners know, in the field of, doing bioidentical hormone replacement, we've been using transdermal hormone creams. Why? Because the absorption is so fantastic, right? And then the nose, right? So a lot of times, even when my husband was first diagnosed with ALS, we were actively looking for compounds that we could use intranasally because we've got neurodegeneration. So we wanted to get things up to the brain. So, with this, one of my favorites, parasympathetic. I mean, I love it, right? Because it just kind of makes you get into a place of parasympathetic. We want to stop this fight or flight. So kind of talk a little bit about this one, the parasympathetic, as well as why is it so important? Because stress is such a killer these days, and stress is such a contributor to chronic diseases. Why? Yeah. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so what most people don't know is the body's operating system is your autonomic nervous system. It controls your automatic functions, your breathing, your heart rate, your ability to digest food, to detoxify pollutants, to turn on your immune system, to turn off inflammation. It's what keeps you alive. And it has different speeds. Just like in your car, you can accelerate or you can slow down, right? So if there's perceived danger, either a wild animal chasing you or a car that's changing lanes that might not see you, it
Right.
shifts into the gas pedal, the sympathetic branch of the nervous system known as fight or flight, and resources are allocated for survival. So blood is routed to the arms and the legs and away from digestion and detoxification. Your eyes change, your pupils, the black part of your eye gets really big, so it can take in selective information, so you can make that next best choice to keep you alive. And what's important about that is that it's designed to be these short and acute stressors, these little emergencies that then they pass, and you can literally gear shift back into the rest, digest, heal state of the parasympathetic nervous system, where all healing occurs. But sadly, anticipatory stress, fear about your finances, your relationship, your health, whatever is going on in the world, can have the same impact as an actual physical stressor. So you stay kind of stuck in the wrong gear. And I use the analogy of biking. I live in Seattle, I bike a lot. If you're biking up a steep hill in the highest gear, it's going to be really hard. If you can downshift, it makes it more manageable. So if you're walking through life stuck in that that sympathetic gear, where you're never really taking care of your delayed maintenance, you're never really digesting your nutrients, you're never really detoxifying the toxins, you're never really bothering to anti-inflame or turn on your immune system, there's going to be a lot of challenges that are going to build up under the surface, that iceberg, a lot of problems that you don't even know are existing. So the more we can help you shift into the parasympathetic nervous system and help heal and proactively, restore and repair your body, the less likely you are to have any kind of ailment. And if you're suffering from an ailment, it's a great way to help unravel and recover. So what's interesting is the gear shift between the fight or flight nervous system and rest and digest is your vagus nerve. It's cranial, really quick anatomy lesson. It starts at the back of the head, splits, and is most accessible behind the earlobe on both sides. If you feel behind your earlobe, you'll feel a bone. That is your mastoid bone. That is where the vagus nerve is the most accessible. And early on in my own experience of essential oils, I was a lifelong yogi, so I knew about the parasympathetic nervous system. So I was really focused on how would I activate that? And because it's the rest and digest nervous system, I kept thinking, oh, it's a relaxing oil, it's lavender, it's chamomile. And I was trying to assess it. There's a device called the Aura Ring that measures your heart rate variability, which is a really good indicator of parasympathetic health and resilience. And so I was playing with oils on different points, and nothing was really moving the needle. And around the time I started my company in 2012, there was a New York neuroscientist by the name of Kevin Tracy, who was basically surgically implanting a pacemaker-like device behind the earlobe on the mastoid bone. And he was getting phenomenal success, so much so that the FDA authorized this technology for migraines, epilepsy, and depression. And when I realized, wait a minute, he's stimulating the vagus nerve. He's stimulating the vagus nerve to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. A light bulb went off. And I thought, oh, oils can be stimulatory. We call them hot oils like clove, oregano, thyme, peppermint, rosemary, nutmeg, cinnamon, anything that you might put on your skin and it might feel warm or it might get a little red. Those are known as stimulatory oils. So I started playing with different ones and that application point, and clove tested the best, but it took too long because, there was a chemistry involved. The molecules took about 20 minutes to get through the skin. So I started combining it with oils that had smaller molecules like lime. And I realized not only was it stimulatory, it got through the skin very quickly and worked like an acupuncture needle. And when you topically apply this blend, we call it the parasympathetic blend. I give the exact ratio and ingredients in the book. It works like an acupuncture needle. It stimulates the vagus nerve. It's gear shifting you into the parasympathetic state. And now it's turning on your digestive cascade. Your blood is being routed to your organs of detoxification. It stimulates the vagus nerve to release the anti-inflammatory neurotransmitter acetylcholine. So it's calming inflammation. It's turning your immune system on. it's pretty much like, trying to read in the dark and then you turn on the light and it's so much easier. This is literally shifting your body into a state where healing is easier.
That's awesome. And again, both of us know that stress, and if we don't live in the parasympathetic mode, rather in the sympathetic mode, we know from personal experience what it does to our bodies. Jodi and I also have something really interesting in common. Both of us were very, very kindly awarded the Overcomers Award. Yep, I've got mine sitting in my office as well, something that both of us are, there. It was a good feeling for both of us at different points to be recognized for that, because both of us have stories of tough times that we've gone through.
Yeah.
And I believe that story is such a powerful vehicle, right? And you have such a fascinating story with what you've gone through and how you've started, which you talked about. And I think that with all the tragedies that we go through, with me, my husband with ALS, I went through cancer. Jodi has a very powerful story as well. We really learn to give back. And through our tough times, we give back on many different levels. So thank you for giving back. And if there's something else you'd like to mention about your story, I know that our listeners would love to hear about that, because the connection is really, really strong.
Yeah, I think I've come to realize that I'm a wounded healer, which means I think of it like a roller coaster, right? I hit rock bottom. I decide I'm not going to stay there. So I figure out how to crawl my way out of the hole. And once I get to, feel a little better, I think, God, I wish I had known that. It would have been easier if someone had told me that would have been helpful, because it would have saved me a lot of time. And so I decide, I guess, since it's not out there, I will share it. So my first, I've had many actually when I look back on my life, but my first kind of rock bottom hit, I guess, I have two children. One passed away in a car accident at the age of 12. That's what you're referring to. But my first child was super easy. And I just mistakenly assumed that I was a great mom. And oh, everyone else is struggling with sleep. I have an easy kid. I must be doing it right. So I had another one 22 months later, Max, my son. And he was not easy. And he was always my greatest teacher. And I actually got into nutrition because of him. He was really, that kid who did those things. Like when the people would come to baby proof your house and they're like, you might want to lock your oven because some kids crawl in the oven. And you're like laughing, like, no one's going to crawl in the oven. Max crawled in the oven.
Oh,
Max was nonstop 24/7. Our cue with him used to be like, look at my nose, and he couldn't focus on the nose.
Oh, wow.
And then one day when he was around 3, we were at a birthday party and he was being really well behaved. And my friend Alex said, oh, look at Max, he's being so well behaved. And I had that proud mom moment until another mom passed out goldfish crackers as a snack and he Jekyll-Hyded and took off sprinting in the other direction. So after I retrieved him and brought him back, Alex said, I've never noticed him Jekyll-Hyde after eating something. My brother was on Ritalin his whole life, and it turned out he was just allergic to weird foods. You should take him to a nutritionist. And I thought, I can certainly do that. I've tried everything else. So took him to a nutritionist who very quickly identified that he was super sensitive to excitotoxins, like the orange dye in the goldfish, and that we should also take him off of corn, soy, and dairy. We did. And the next day he could look at our nose. And I thought, this is bananas. I've been banging my head against the wall and it's food. So I went back and got a degree in nutrition and was trying to help other squirmy kids. So I learned this convenient technique called muscle testing that really helps you kind of zone in and identify, prioritize what is going on and what can help, what remedy can help. So then the next shoe dropped when Max was about 5 and his sister was about 7. Their dad, we figured out, I just thought he had a great personality, but after my daughter was born, it became pretty clear he was bipolar and he was pretty manic. So I thought that we, got him on the right meds and he seemed to be okay. And then after my son was born, he kept getting more and more depressed. And it was like that frog in the boiling water. Like the more I tried to help him, the more he kind of couldn't really show up and help himself. And it got to the point where it became pretty clear he might die on my watch. Wow. And so our friends staged an intervention and basically introduced me to a new vocabulary word, residential treatment facility, which is an inpatient, mental health support facility. So we moved him to one And the minute I knew he was safe and it wasn't my job to keep him safe, I hit rock bottom. My adrenals had been running quite a marathon and they were ready to, tap the mat. So I could barely function. I would wake up with the kids, feed them breakfast, pack their lunch, drive them to school, come home, set the alarm for pickup, and pretty much function that way. And I was kind of the worst case scenario. I was ingesting all the right herbs. I knew what I should be taking. Nothing was moving the needle. Luckily, I had been such an overachiever. I'd helped a friend with a fundraiser, and she brought me a huge box of about 50 essential oils as a thank you and said, these might help you. You've been so chronically stressed, chronic cortisol for so long. I bet your gut is really inflamed. Maybe you can inhale them and they get into the brain that way, or topically apply them. And again, I figured, why not? I've tried everything else. So I muscle tested the box for my adrenals, found 5 oils that it surprised me. Normally I would get one remedy.
Right.
Then it occurred to me, oh, wait a minute, they're liquid. I can combine them, like a mixed drink or something. And so I literally grabbed a shot glass and started testing like 7 drops of this one, 5 of this one, combined them in the shot glass, put them on my low back where, the adrenals were the most accessible to the surface, and felt like myself. It was like, wow, I can go running. I can go to the supermarket. Like, when you're, I don't know what rock bottom is for the listeners, but for me, climbing the stairs felt hard. Answering the phone felt hard. So to feel like I could, run a couple miles or go to the supermarket, that was a win.
Yeah.
And that night I was lying in bed, I would get the kids to sleep, and then I would begin kind of the insomniac clock watch, oh, it's 9:30. Oh, it's 10. Oh, it's 11. Anyway, as I was kind of unraveling my day, I'm like, wow, that was a win. And then I thought, well, gosh, I wonder if oils can help with sleep. Like maybe I can make up another little potion to help my sleep.
Yeah.
So I did. And, I put it on, and basically, the next thing I knew, my 5-year-old was jumping on the bed to wake me up. And I'm like, okay, that was a win. So I basically just kept making things up and kind of launched the company a bit by accident. My friends wanted to know what I did. They were trying the remedies. It worked for them. They said, you should do something with this. I figured someone must be doing it. I went online and was surprised to realize no one was really looking at oil blends. A lot of single oils were kind of marketed in this way, but no one was combining them to balance organ systems and regions of the brain. And then I also realized that it was described in a way that made it seem so complicated. I was almost grateful that I didn't really have the mental capacity to start with research, because I would have probably felt unqualified and not done it. And so I was doing that kind of, quietly, like, I had a background in journalism, so I'd write a blog every week. People would find me through Dr. Google. I would fill orders when my kids went to bed. At a certain point, I think I hired a friend to help me with that. And, just learning, going back, getting more education, really understanding why oils worked. And then August 27th, 2018, my 12-year-old son, Max, and 3 of his friends went to go whitewater rafting on the eastern side of the state. And on the way there was a massive car accident, and my son died instantly. And then 2 of his friends wound up passing away in the coming months. And it's so weird, like with grief, like, all these people showed up at my house, and I'm an introvert. And so suddenly, like, we'd just gotten back from this crazy trip. My kid is dead. My other kid, like, I don't even know. I just remember thinking, like, how in the world am I going to do this? And all these people are here, and we ordered pizza. Like, I don't even like to cook. So my daughter's friend remembers me answering the door, and the pizza guy, it was August. It was nice and Seattle. It's like, hey, you're having a party, having a good day. And I'm like, actually, no, my kid was dead. Like, it just, the confluence of how, and people are dropping off like pharmaceutical drugs, which never work for me. And I'm like, it's kind of like trying to learn to swim when you're drowning.
Yeah.
Like, I realized pretty quickly, like, my daughter is 14, and there's a lot of research on childhood trauma, and that you really need someone who's pretty solid, that's a grown-up, that feels safe. And I'm like, if I fall apart, then I can't be that safe person for her. So I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
It was a lot of really bad advice, some
Yeah.
occasionally good advice, a lot of intuition. And what I ultimately wound up doing was kind of creating my own system. You know, I'm a journalist, so I journal. So
Right.
every night I would reverse engineer the day and say, like, what were the wins? What were the epic fails? You know, and
Sure.
certain people were like Debbie Downer. I mean, I just had to kind of keep making up my own roadmap as I went. Like when I used the parasympathetic oil, I felt better. When
Right.
I went on a walk with my dog, I always felt better. When I went to yoga, I felt better. When I tried grief therapy, I felt horrible, you know, mostly because I wanted hope. I wanted to see someone who like lost a child who like 5 or 10 years out was in a great place. And I saw a lot of people that seemed pretty stuck. And so that felt very disempowering. So I just kept trial and erroring, making it up every day.
Right.
And, you know, some pretty powerful trends emerged for oils. And that was one of the things, like in the book, I really tried to, I hear a lot of people saying that there's an oil for everything. And I guess I see it differently. I don't, if you're having a heart attack, I think you should go to the ER. You know, if you break your arm, get a cast. But I do think that there are 5 common things that I see a lot of that I do think oils can really help with. Like,
Oh,
I think, you know, it can help you shift into that parasympathetic state. It can help you promote restful sleep. It can help, especially with lymphatic flow and drainage. It can help with the endocrine system and energy, and it can help with immune modulation and inflammation. And so I really try to stay in my lane and
right.
combine. This is what I see as some of the underlying factors that are going on with our health.
Right.
These are how you can use oils to support them. And these are the recipes if you want to make them yourself, or, you know, if you're not a do-it-yourself kind of person, I have them for you. So that's really where I was trying to start with people.
That's an amazing, heart-wrenching, but amazing story. And I have to say, on behalf of all the listeners, Jodi, thank you for opening yourself up, because, you know, it's not easy. You and I know, when we share our grief publicly, when we share our experiences publicly, it it is very difficult for us, but you and I both know that it helps so many, so we do it authentically. And with that, I think you and I are sisters of the soul, because both of us really believe in sharing everything that we've learned from all the tough times we've been through. So really, thank you. Now I want to go back to the 5 things you mentioned, because those 5 things are so pervasive
Right.
in all the, you know, patients that I see in my practice, most of the listeners, people that you see. So let's take one of them to break it down. Let's take the endocrine system. Clinical research actually has shown that essential oils can be a very powerful tool to support, for example, thyroid health, right? So at the very least, to reduce the symptoms of low thyroid and other thyroid related diseases, such as Hashimoto's. Symptoms could be anything, you know, going from depression, anxiety, insomnia, low energy, weight gain, hair loss. So can we focus in on thyroid a little bit? Which oils can support the endocrine system, and how can we address some of these symptoms specifically?
Yeah, and I also have been, well, my blood work looks good these days, but I at one point was considered Hashimoto's, and my big symptoms were dry skin and brittle nails. But so it's interesting. Frankincense and myrrh are actually the ones that are touted the most for the thyroid, and they're great. And you can put them on the front of the neck or the back of the neck, or just smell them. I look at it a little bit more holistically, and I really like Dr. Isabella Wentz. I think she does a wonderful job kind of detailing what I see work both in practice and for myself. But when you support detoxification, when you help calm the stress response, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and when you support the gut, those are kind of the underlying factors that often cause thyroid conditions. So I always start with the liver, because I think so many of us, you know, in order for garbage to leave our body, it needs to go from the cell to the lymph to the blood to the liver to the gallbladder to the gut to the toilet. And it's a hydraulic system. So it's a little bit like traffic, right? If there is congestion, I just drove from Seattle to Portland for my daughter's crew regatta. Olympia and Tacoma are nightmares to cross through. It takes forever because there's traffic kind of in the main city part. So it causes a backup like 10 to 20 miles out, right? Similarly, if there's congestion in the liver or the gallbladder, toxins can be pushed back out into the blood and then either be routed through the kidneys, which can result in low back pain or frequent urination, or the skin, which can show up as like skin eruptions. So for oils and detox, parasympathetic helps allow the toxins to leave the cells. Lymph is so congested, and this is such a challenging issue, you know, because you can't necessarily take a supplement for lymph, but oils, castor oil, anything that you can topically apply. I actually quote research in the book and have a video on my site. Dr. Marco Ruggiero was doing sonogram photos and looking at lymph congestion, especially in the neck, because, you know, toxins drain from the head down the neck. And if there's congestion in the neck, they can recirculate in the brain and lead to inflammation. So anything you can do, you know, even on the side of the neck, be it castor oil before bed, be it frankincense, be it any combination of things to support lymph drainage. And also, people don't realize lymph drains more heavily on the left side of the body, 75%. So applying it under the left clavicle is a really good point to ensure kind of proper drainage and elimination.
Awesome.
And then there are oils for the liver and the gallbladder.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I think that's great the way that you described it, because I always like to tell my patients and the listeners that thyroid is a condition. You know, a lot of people think that if they have, whether it's hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, or what have you, that they're going to have to be on some medications for the rest of their life. And I tell my patients, actually, you don't. If we can treat the root causes of what got you there to begin with, we can get you off your medications and really just have you living a healthier life. And it's very remarkable that, you know, when we take care of patients in that way, they don't really have to take thyroid medications. A lot of them, not everybody, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
Their antibody levels go down if they have Hashimoto's, because that is a sign of what's happening in your body with the autoimmune response. So I'm really glad that you mentioned the entire cascade and what we can do in the different areas of the cascade. Also, the relationship of thyroid and adrenals, also the relationship between thyroid and your sex hormones. So everything is connected as a symphony orchestra is. Now, one thing that gets that to a point of becoming very difficult to treat is all the toxic stuff that we're surrounded by.
Exactly.
And that is where what you're talking about with draining everything with the lymphatics and getting the liver to work better. So what are some of the vibrant blue oils precisely that, you know, you're devoted to creating products that are, of course, free from pesticides, chemical fertilizers, adulterants, and other toxins? How are your oils, and which ones are they that are so important to prevent the destruction in our hormone and our thyroid system?
Yeah, well, we have a blend called lymph, one called liver, one called gallbladder, and I actually go, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, I kind of detail the ones that are really helpful in the book. But it's really interesting. I found, because I've taken a lot of supplements, and I am a slow methylator. My phase 2 is all messed up. It turns out it's the flavonoids, which is why the broccoli sprout is so good for me. But when I started kind of adding in oils, my favorite actually way to support the liver and the gallbladder, it's pretty easy. It's just castor oil over the liver and gallbladder before bed, and I combine it with essential oils. If you want just one, helichrysum or white grapefruit are good. You can also use blends. Black cumin seed is really good for the gallbladder. But just that, and then binders, you know, so much of the time we process, the toxins get to the gut and they get recirculated through the gut. So if you can take a binder, I like GI Detox, which you can get on Amazon. I like the Cellcore products. It's literally, it just kind of grabs the toxins and shepherds them out of the body so they don't get recirculated. Absolutely. And cause the liver to process them again.
Yeah, very important point. You know, if you are detoxing, make sure that you're on binders, some of the ones that Jodi mentioned. You can also look into Zeobind, you can look into Chlorella, GI Detox, like you mentioned, all very good binders, but make sure that you're not detoxing without the binders because you will risk recirculation.
It's like yelling fire in the crowded movie theater without opening the exit doors.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Let's kind of talk about your the information in your book. It's already impacted thousands of lives around the world. Your book, talk about it for a second, whatever you want people to most know about the book and the power of something that can actually work with the brain when so many things cannot work with the brain.
Yeah, I mean, I broke it into 3 parts. The first part really explains how oils work in the brain, how you can access the brain. The second part, I noticed in practice, like when I was working with kids, compliance is complicated. And the more people understand, like, you're a baseball player and you really want to be able to run fast. And the more you get oxygen to your brain, the faster, in your arms and legs, you can run. So if you explain that to them and then you say, and this supplement's going to get more oxygen in the body, they're like, oh, I want that. I'm going to take it. So I spent the whole second part really trying to detail what's going on, what's out of balance, and how oils can help it return to balance. And the last part is a really specific protocol. And someone said to me, like, oh, you're an oil person. And it's not that. It's that I think oils are the easiest. I spent like a decade trying to get my kids to eat kale, trying to grind up supplements and put it in applesauce with stevia and cinnamon, or bake it into muffins that they didn't eat. And all of that felt hard. And then I started playing with oils and I realized, oh my God, they never say no to a foot rub with oils, or
Right?
they like the way this smells and they carry it with them. It's not that oils are the only answer. It's just that it's an affordable, easy answer. Bottles are small. They're easy to carry in your pocket. They're easy to keep in your purse or in your car. It just feels like something that people actually do,
Yes.
and with vagus nerve stimulation, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Datis Karazian, who was kind of the first one who was, screaming about the vagus nerve into the wind. And he was saying things like gag yourself with a tongue depressor, gargle for 5 minutes, all things that elicited like zero compliance, give yourself a coffee enema. People shockingly were not racing to do that. But when I said, you can take an oil, go flip, put it here, and boom, it does the same thing. They're like, that I can do.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. I mean, ever since I've gotten my little stress support kit, which I need my stress support kit after what we're going through. Parasympathetic behind my ears. I use the hypothalamus one, and I use the circadian rhythm. I think those are amazing ones to really. I use those definitely at bedtime, but also during the day when I'm feeling a little, my heart rate variability is going up. It brings it down.
Oh, yeah. Well, I told you my daughter had her first day back, and she, it's so weird because she's actually an extrovert, but she's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can deal with all these people. So I know we did a lot of parasympathetic. She took it with us. Even she carpooled with her friend, and her friend's anxious too. She sent me a little text like, okay, parasympathetic's helping. It's a lot.
Exactly. And the funnest thing is, when your parasympathetic is activated, you all of a sudden feel more rested, which then boosts your stamina, your energy, your focus, your memory. So it's all a wonderfully beautiful cycle that promotes healing. I know for my husband with his neurodegenerative disease, with ALS, we use oils a lot to try to keep him really into the healing state and get his vagus nerve activated and in the parasympathetic mode. And I would say for all of our listeners out there, if you're struggling with something, whether it be your thyroid, your adrenals, stress, gut issues, really focusing on, just you need to get into a healing state. We cannot heal unless we are in a parasympathetic state. It's kind of where it starts, and then really get into the detoxification and make sure that all of those toxins are out. Any last words, Jodi? I want to ask you to kind of tell our listeners, how do they get your book and how can they learn more about your essential oils?
Yeah, so I actually have a free bonus chapter of the book at boostthebrainbook.com/gift that they can just go and download right away. And it gives 25 ways to activate your vagus nerve. If oils are not your thing, or you just want other strategies, you only need to pick one. The book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body, is available everywhere books are sold: Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. And
Great.
then our website is vibrantblueoils.com. And they can email us with any questions at info@vibrantblueoils.
Thank you so much for making time for today's podcast with Get Well with Dr. Shel. I know that this conversation and education can help you to create your best life possible on every level. So definitely tune in to hear the newest expert and learn the latest protocols to support your best health journey. You can learn more about me and my wellness center at drshel.com, drshel.com, and I hope that you will make time to come visit us in the Houston area to take a deep dive on self-care. My team and I are completely devoted to helping you live a better life from this moment forward. The best days of your life are ahead of you, I promise. This podcast is a powerful and simple way to carry the wisdom of thought leaders from around the world in your pocket and continue to develop your own healing journey every single day. So let the journey begin.